The hazmat suits rustled like death shrouds as agents stormed through the glass corridors of Meridian Biotech labs. Emergency klaxons shrieked their mechanical warning, while red lights bathed everything in an apocalyptic glow. Dr. Marcus Williams pressed his back against the cold steel of his laboratory door, watching through the reinforced window as armed CDC personnel sealed off section after section of the building. His hands trembled, not from fear, but from the crushing realization that his life's work, 15 years of groundbreaking research into infectious disease prevention, was about to be destroyed by a single phone call. The morning had begun like any other in Marcus's carefully ordered world. Steam rose from his coffee mug, mingling with the sterile air of Laboratory 7, where he conducted his research on bacterial resistance mechanisms. The 42-year-old microbiologist had earned his reputation through meticulous attention to detail and an unwavering commitment to scientific integrity. His colleagues respected him for his breakthrough work on antibiotic-resistant pathogens, research that had already saved thousands of lives across 3 continents. The walls of his office displayed certificates from Harvard Medical School, the CDC, and the World Health Organization, tangible proof of a brilliant mind dedicated to healing humanity's most persistent threats. Karen Whitmore had been watching him for months. From her corner office on the executive floor of Whitmore Pharmaceuticals, she monitored every publication, every grant application, every success that Marcus achieved. Her company had lost 3 major government contracts to Meridian Biotech in the past year, each loss costing millions in projected revenue. The 50-year-old pharmaceutical heiress had inherited her position through family connections rather than scientific merit. But she understood power dynamics with ruthless precision. Her manicured fingers drummed against imported mahogany as she studied Marcus's latest research proposal, a comprehensive study on engineered bacterial strains that could revolutionize vaccine development. The conspiracy began 3 weeks earlier, during a board meeting in Whitmore's glass-walled conference room. Sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating charts that showed declining market share and lost opportunities. Karen's vice president of operations, a nervous man named Gerald Stevens, presented the quarterly losses with visible discomfort. "We're losing ground to Meridian on every front," Gerald explained, his voice barely above a whisper. "Their research team, led by Dr. Williams, has developed 3 breakthrough treatments this year alone. Our shareholders are demanding explanations." Karen's blue eyes narrowed as she studied the financial projections. "What do we know about Williams's current research?" "He's working on something called engineered bacterial delivery systems. The military applications alone could be worth billions." Gerald shuffled through classified documents that had been acquired through less than legal means. "If his research succeeds, we'll be completely shut out of the biodefense market." The idea formed in Karen's mind, like a malignant tumor, growing stronger with each passing moment. She dismissed the board members with curt nods, then spent the next hour making carefully planned phone calls to contacts in regulatory agencies. Her family's political connections ran deep: senators, congressmen, and agency directors who owed favors accumulated over decades of campaign contributions and backdoor dealings. Marcus remained blissfully unaware of the trap being constructed around him. He spent his days immersed in the elegant complexity of microbial genetics, working late into the evenings as he refined his latest breakthrough. The bacterial delivery system he had developed could transport vaccines directly to infected cells, bypassing traditional immune system barriers. Military officials had expressed interest in the technology's potential applications for biological warfare defense, but Marcus's intentions remained purely humanitarian. On the morning of March 15th, Karen implemented her plan with surgical precision. She sat in her Mercedes sedan outside Meridian Biotech labs, watching through tinted windows as employees arrived for their morning shifts. Her phone call to the CDC's emergency hotline lasted exactly 4 minutes and 37 seconds. "This is Dr. Karen Whitmore from Whitmore Pharmaceuticals," she began, her voice carefully modulated to convey urgent concern. "I have credible information about a potential bioweapon threat at Meridian Biotech Labs. Dr. Marcus Williams has been conducting unauthorized research on weaponized bacterial strains. I believe he may be planning to deploy these agents against civilian populations." The CDC operator's training kicked in immediately. "Ma'am, I need you to provide specific details about the nature of this threat." Karen had prepared for this moment. Williams has been working with engineered bacteria that could cause widespread plague-like symptoms. My sources indicate he has already produced viable samples and may be planning distribution through the city's water supply. Time is critical. Within 20 minutes, emergency protocols activated across multiple government agencies. The Department of Homeland Security issued internal alerts, while CDC response teams mobilized from their Atlanta headquarters. Local police cordoned off a 6-block radius around Meridian Biotech Labs as news helicopters circled overhead like mechanical vultures. Social media exploded with speculation and fear as images of hazmat-suited agents flooded every platform. Marcus discovered the chaos when his security badge failed to open the laboratory door. Through the reinforced glass, he could see federal agents examining his research equipment with instruments designed to detect biological contamination. His 15 years of careful work, his detailed notes, his cultured samples, everything that represented his life's dedication to saving lives, was being treated as evidence of potential terrorism. Dr. Sarah Chen, Marcus's research partner and closest friend, found him standing frozen in the hallway. Her usually composed features showed deep concern as she approached. "Marcus, what's happening? The entire building is under lockdown." "I don't know," Marcus replied, his voice hollow with shock. "They won't let me into my own laboratory. Federal agents are examining my research like it's some kind of weapon." Sarah's scientific mind immediately began analyzing possibilities. Someone must have reported suspicious activity. But who would do such a thing? Your research is focused on medical applications, not weapons development. The answer came in the form of Agent Rebecca Torres, a seasoned CDC investigator who had spent 12 years tracking actual bioterrorism threats. She approached Marcus with professional courtesy, but unmistakable authority. Her dark eyes studied his face for signs of deception, while she delivered the news that would shatter his world. "Dr. Williams, we've received credible reports that you've been developing biological weapons in violation of federal law. I need to ask you some questions about your research activities." Marcus felt the ground shift beneath his feet. "Biological weapons agent Torres, my research focuses on vaccine delivery systems. Everything I do is aimed at preventing disease, not causing it. We'll need to examine all your research materials, computer files, and laboratory samples." Torres continued. "Until our investigation is complete, you're suspended from accessing this facility." The news media descended on the story with ravenous hunger. Cable networks interrupted regular programming to report on the bioweapon plot that had triggered a national emergency response. Karen watched from her office, allowing herself a small smile as reporters repeated her carefully planted narrative. The story painted Marcus as a brilliant but potentially dangerous scientist whose research had crossed ethical boundaries. Marcus's reputation crumbled within hours. Colleagues who had respected his work began avoiding his phone calls. Professional organizations quietly removed his name from upcoming conferences. His research grants faced immediate review, while university partnerships suspended their collaborations. The scientific community, built on trust and peer validation, turned away from him like he carried a contagious disease. Dr. Chen refused to abandon her friend. She spent sleepless nights reviewing Marcus's research data, looking for any evidence that might clear his name. Her methodical approach revealed inconsistencies in the accusations that had triggered the federal response. The allegations were too specific, too detailed for someone outside the scientific community to fabricate. Someone with intimate knowledge of biological research had crafted these lies. Karen's plan proceeded flawlessly for 3 weeks. Whitmore Pharmaceuticals quietly secured 2 major government contracts, while Meridian Biotech's reputation lay in ruins. The company's stock price plummeted as investors fled in panic, leaving the firm vulnerable to a hostile takeover that Karen had been planning for months. Her lawyers prepared acquisition documents, while she cultivated relationships with Meridian's panicked board members. The first crack in Karen's facade appeared during a routine background check conducted by Agent Torres. The CDC investigator discovered financial connections between Whitmore Pharmaceuticals and several politicians who had pressured the agency to act quickly on the bioweapon allegations. Torres had built her career on following evidence wherever it led, regardless of political pressure or corporate influence. Dr. Chen's investigation yielded the breakthrough that would change everything. While reviewing security footage from the week before the allegations surfaced, she discovered something that made her blood run cold. Karen Whitmore had visited Meridian Biotech Labs twice in the days preceding her emergency phone call, using visitor credentials obtained through false pretenses. The timestamps showed her accessing areas near Marcus's laboratory during late evening hours, when minimal staff remained in the building. More disturbing evidence emerged from Marcus's computer logs. Someone had accessed his research files remotely, copying detailed information about his bacterial delivery systems. The digital forensics revealed sophisticated hacking techniques that went far beyond simple corporate espionage. Karen had not only stolen Marcus's research, she had used it to construct a believable framework for her false allegations. Agent Torres confronted Karen in her corporate office 3 weeks after the initial emergency response. The pharmaceutical executive maintained her composure, but Torres noticed subtle signs of stress in her body language. Karen's hands remained perfectly still, her voice carefully modulated, her expression neutral, all indicators of someone who had prepared extensively for this confrontation. Ms. Whitmore, we need to discuss the information you provided about Dr. Williams's research. Torres began. Our investigation has revealed some discrepancies in your original report. Karen's smile never wavered. Agent Torres, I simply reported what I believed to be a legitimate threat to public safety. If my information was incorrect, I apologize, but I felt compelled to act on credible intelligence. That's interesting, Torres replied, sliding a manila folder across Karen's desk. Because the credible intelligence you described matches classified details from Dr. Williams' research files that were accessed illegally from an IP address registered to your company. The mask of composed professionalism slipped for just a moment, revealing the calculating predator beneath. Karen's eyes flashed with something between rage and fear before she regained control. I have no knowledge of any illegal activities. My company maintains the highest ethical standards. Torres opened the folder, revealing printed screenshots and network logs. Your company's IT department accessed Meridian Biotech's servers 17 times in the 2 weeks preceding your emergency call. The hackers specifically targeted Dr. Williams' research files, downloading everything related to his bacterial delivery systems. The walls of Karen's carefully constructed deception began crumbling as federal investigators dug deeper into the conspiracy. Bank records revealed payments to hackers specializing in corporate espionage. Phone logs showed conversations with congressional staffers who had pressured the CDC to act quickly on the bioweapon allegations. Email chains documented Karen's systematic campaign to destroy Marcus's reputation and acquire his research through fraudulent means. Marcus spent agonizing weeks in professional limbo, watching his life's work being dissected by investigators who treated him like a potential terrorist. The stress took its toll on his health and relationships. His wife Sarah, not Dr. Chen, but his partner of 15 years, struggled to support him while protecting their two young children from the media frenzy. The family received death threats from extremists who believed the fabricated allegations without question. Dr. Chen's relentless investigation finally uncovered the smoking gun that would exonerate Marcus completely. Deep in Whitmore Pharmaceuticals' corporate archives, she found internal documents outlining Karen's strategy to eliminate competition through false accusations and regulatory manipulation. The documents revealed a pattern of similar attacks against other rival companies, though none as elaborate or dangerous as the fabricated bioweapon plot. The whistleblower who provided these documents was Gerald Stevens, Karen's own vice president of operations. His conscience had been tormented by the knowledge that an innocent man's life had been destroyed for corporate profit. He contacted Dr. Chen through encrypted channels, providing a treasure trove of evidence that exposed the full scope of Karen's criminal conspiracy. Agent Torres presented the evidence to federal prosecutors, who recognized the gravity of the charges. Karen Whitmore had not only committed corporate espionage and fraud, she had weaponized the federal government's bioterrorism response system for personal gain. Her false allegations had cost taxpayers millions of dollars in emergency response costs, while terrorizing an entire city with fears of a biological attack. The congressional hearing that would determine Marcus's fate took place in a packed committee room where television cameras captured every moment for the national audience. Chairman Robert Hayes, a distinguished senator with 30 years of experience, called the session to order with appropriate gravity. The mahogany-paneled chamber fell silent as Marcus took his seat at the witness table, surrounded by the lawyers who had volunteered to represent him pro bono. Karen sat across the room with her high-priced legal team, maintaining the same composed facade that had served her throughout the crisis. She wore a navy blue suit that projected authority and respectability, her blonde hair perfectly styled, her expression carefully neutral. To casual observers, she appeared to be a concerned citizen who had acted in good faith to protect public safety. Chairman Hayes began with a comprehensive review of the timeline that had led to the national emergency response. His deep voice filled the chamber as he outlined the sequence of events that had begun with Karen's phone call and culminated in a massive federal investigation. Dr. Williams, you stand accused of conducting research that could be used for biological warfare. These are serious allegations that have triggered significant government resources and public concern. How do you respond to these charges? Marcus leaned forward, his voice steady despite the tremendous pressure. Chairman Hayes, my research has always focused on preventing disease, not causing it. The bacterial delivery systems I developed are designed to transport vaccines more effectively, potentially saving millions of lives. I have never conducted research with military applications, and I have certainly never considered using my work to harm anyone. The committee's chief investigator, a sharp-eyed woman named Patricia Morse, presented the evidence that Dr. Chen and Agent Torres had uncovered. The presentation lasted 2 hours, methodically dismantling Karen's fabricated narrative with documented proof of corporate espionage, illegal hacking, and systematic fraud. The evidence shows that Ms. Whitmore's company conducted 17 unauthorized intrusions into Dr. Williams's computer systems. Morse explained, these intrusions were specifically designed to gather information that could be used to construct believable allegations of bioweapon research. Karen's lead attorney, a prominent Washington lawyer named Richard Blackwood, attempted to deflect blame by arguing that his client had acted on information provided by anonymous sources. His strategy crumbled when Morse presented recorded phone conversations between Karen and the hackers she had hired to steal Marcus's research. The most damning evidence came from Gerald Stevens, who testified under oath about the conspiracy he had witnessed from within Whitmore Pharmaceuticals. His voice shook with emotion as he described Karen's callous disregard for the lives she was destroying in pursuit of corporate profits. She called Dr. Williams collateral damage. Stevens testified. When I expressed concern about the false allegations, she told me that sometimes innocent people had to be sacrificed for the greater good of the company. The hearing's climactic moment arrived when Chairman Hayes directly confronted Karen about her actions. The chamber fell completely silent as the senator's questions cut through her careful deflections with surgical precision. Ms. Whitmore, did you or did you not authorize the hacking of Dr. Williams' research files? Karen's composure finally cracked under the relentless pressure. Her voice rose to a defensive pitch as she abandoned her prepared talking points. Everything I did was to protect American interests from potential threats. Dr. Williams' research could be weaponized by foreign enemies. That's not what the evidence shows. Hayes replied coldly. The evidence shows a systematic campaign to destroy a competitor through fraudulent allegations and illegal espionage. The federal prosecutors who had been monitoring the hearing immediately moved to arrest Karen on charges that would ultimately result in her conviction under anti-bioweapon laws. The irony was inescapable. She faced prosecution under the same statutes she had used to frame Marcus. But her crimes were real rather than fabricated. The trial that followed became a landmark case in corporate espionage and government manipulation. Karen's defense team argued that she had acted in good faith based on legitimate concerns about bioweapon research, but the mountain of evidence against her proved insurmountable. Jury deliberations lasted only 6 hours before returning guilty verdicts on all counts. Judge Margaret Patterson imposed a sentence that sent shockwaves through the corporate world. Karen received 25 years in federal prison for conspiracy, fraud, and violations of anti-bioweapon statutes. Additionally, she faced lifetime banishment from any involvement in scientific research or pharmaceutical development. Whitmore Pharmaceuticals paid $800 million in fines and civil penalties while facing dissolution under federal racketeering laws. Marcus's vindication brought him no joy, only relief that the nightmare was finally ending. The scientific community rallied around him with unprecedented support, offering research positions, grant funding, and collaborative opportunities that would allow him to continue his life-saving work. Harvard Medical School created a new ethics chair in his honor, while the CDC established protocols to prevent future manipulation of bioterrorism response systems. Dr. Chen was promoted to Director of Meridian Biotech Labs, where she implemented new security measures to protect against corporate espionage. Her friendship with Marcus deepened through their shared ordeal, creating a bond that would influence their collaborative research for decades to come. Together, they published groundbreaking papers on bacterial delivery systems that revolutionized vaccine development and saved countless lives across the globe. The congressional investigation led by Chairman Hayes resulted in comprehensive reforms of federal bioterrorism response protocols. New safeguards were established to verify the credibility of reported threats while protecting legitimate researchers from malicious accusations. The reforms bore Marcus's name, ensuring that his suffering would help prevent similar injustices in the future. Gerald Stevens entered the Federal Witness Protection Program after providing testimony that exposed corruption networks extending far beyond Whitmore Pharmaceuticals. His courage in breaking the silence around corporate crime inspired other whistleblowers to come forward with evidence of similar schemes in various industries. Marcus returned to his laboratory 6 months after Karen's conviction, finding his research equipment exactly as he had left it. The bacterial cultures he had been developing on that fateful March morning had been preserved by his colleagues, allowing him to continue his work without losing years of careful cultivation. The first successful vaccine using his delivery system was approved 18 months later, providing protection against antibiotic-resistant infections that had previously been untreatable. The media attention surrounding the case gradually shifted from sensationalized reporting about bioweapon plots to thoughtful coverage of scientific innovation and corporate responsibility. Marcus granted interviews to prominent science journalists who helped educate the public about the difference between legitimate medical research and actual bioweapon development. Agent Torres was promoted to director of the CDC's Bioterrorism Response Division, where she used lessons learned from the Whitmore case to improve threat assessment procedures. Her methodical investigation techniques became standard training material for federal agents working in similar fields. She maintained a professional relationship with Marcus, consulting with him on cases involving alleged bioweapon research. Karen's imprisonment marked the end of a corporate dynasty that had influenced American pharmaceutical policy for 3 generations. Whitmore Pharmaceuticals' assets were liquidated to pay legal settlements to Marcus and other victims of the company's illegal activities. The family's political connections proved worthless in the face of overwhelming evidence and public outrage over the manipulation of national security resources. 5 years after the crisis began, Marcus stood before a packed auditorium at the International Conference on Infectious Disease Prevention. His keynote address focused on the ethical responsibilities of scientific research and the importance of protecting legitimate scientists from malicious attacks. The standing ovation lasted 7 minutes, a testament to his resilience and the respect he had earned through his ordeal. The bacterial delivery system that had been at the center of the false allegations ultimately became one of the most important medical innovations of the 21st century. Marcus's research enabled the development of vaccines for previously incurable diseases, saving millions of lives and justifying every moment of suffering he had endured during the darkest period of his career. As twilight settled over the Meridian Biotech Labs campus, Marcus reflected on the journey that had nearly destroyed him, but ultimately strengthened his resolve to serve humanity through science. The laboratory that had once been invaded by federal agents now buzzed with the activity of researchers from around the world, all working together to combat the diseases that threatened human survival. His vindication was complete, but more importantly, his mission to heal the world continued with renewed purpose and the unshakable support of a scientific community that had learned the true value of standing together against those who would corrupt the pursuit of knowledge for personal gain.